Hello everyone, my name is Yangchen Xu. I'm a graduate student at Nanjing University. This was some joint work that we conducted at a real-world company in observing whether developers can get the information from the program's logs as they intend to. In modern software development, logs become more and more important as they provide precious information about the program's dynamic behavior. Apparently, the utility of logs for helping software development depends on their quality, and such quality is further determined by logging practice, which is performed by developers. So we believe that the quality of logs ultimately depends on developers. Particularly, we introduce the I&C. The I is intentions. Developers write log statements following certain intentions, such as to capture a performance anomaly or plain errors. And the C refers to concerns, since logging carries certain costs such as performance decline and security risks. Sometimes developers would be cautious about logging practice. With the awareness of I&C, we can better understand logging practice and further improve it. Ideally, developers' I&C would be properly reflected in their code. However, in real-world software development, sometimes developers may find that the logs do not satisfy their I&C. For example, one developer may not be able to find a variable that was supposed to be recorded in the log. Another developer may find that there still remain too many logs after some efforts on reducing the log statements. We define these situations as inconsistencies between developers' I&C and their code. So with the aim to establish a proper understanding of developers' I&C, and more importantly, investigate how the I&C are properly reflected in their code, we defined four research questions. First, what are the developers' awareness and understanding of logging practice in this company? Second, what I&C that developers have in logging practice? Third, to what extent the developers' I&C could be properly reflected in their code? And last, what should be improved regarding the current adoption status of logging practice? This slide shows the process of this study. Driven by the research goals and questions, we first prepared a set of questions. Then we conducted a series of interviews with the developers. After interviews, we started source code analysis. Through extraction and manual check of each log statement, we collected contextual features of the code snippets that contain the log statements. With the results from the previous two steps, we conducted a mutual verification by comparing the two sources of evidence to examine how developers' I&C are reflected in their code. To increase the credibility of the results and to explore the reasons behind, we finally conducted follow-up interviews. So this table shows the background of the developers. We totally got 6 interviewees working on 3 different projects. The background shows that all of these developers have some experience on logging practice, which to a certain degree implies that logging practice is a common task in their work. The developers' opinions shared become evidence of their awareness and understanding of logging practice. And this table depicts a global view of their I&C. The developers have 3 major intentions: error debugging, system behavior understanding, and performance diagnosis. And their concerns are mainly around overheads, such as I/O, memory, CPU, and storage. We can find that project characteristics may impact the developer's I&C. Nevertheless, developers in different projects may still share some I&C in common. For research question 3, to investigate to what extent the developer's I&C could be properly reflected in their code, we performed a preliminary analysis. The table on the left summarizes the code snippets that developers think should contain log statements. Our strategy is simple. We found out these code snippets in the source code, like the examples on the right, and observed whether there exists a log statement in each code snippet. If a code snippet did not contain a log statement, we picked it out and talked with the developer in the follow-up interviews. And if the developer admitted that the code snippet does need to be logged, an inconsistency was then identified. In the opposite case, the developer would explain why he didn't place a log statement there. And these are the results. The absence rates of log statement range from about 40% to about 59%. So it can be seen that developers I&C have not been properly reflected in their code. And through the follow-up interview, we got some reasons why the inconsistencies could happen. And the last is the results for research question 4. Regarding the improvement of logging practice, developers shared their opinions mainly on two topics, logging tools and guidelines. Around tools, developers expect a smarter tool that can give recommendations of where and what to log, but they also show their doubts about such a powerful tool. Towards guidelines, developers' attitudes are divided into two groups. The positive group thinks that the guidelines are necessary and helpful, and the negative group thinks that guidelines are hard to define and useless as the existing ones can't be applied in their projects. So these results make us think about something more deeply. First, we think that I&C deserve more attention from researchers. To the best of our knowledge, there are many studies that use techniques such as machine learning to analyze log statements and their contexts for automatic logging recommendations. But if the R and C are not taken into account, that result may be difficult for developers to understand. Second, in fact, effective guidelines for general-purpose logging might not exist. Logging is an approach that provides informative data for subsequent analysis. Different analysis techniques and purposes require different types of information. In this sense, the goal to design general-purpose logging guidelines might not be practical and feasible, which to a certain degree explains developers' conflicting attitudes towards the guidelines. Third, current research primarily focuses on the improvement of existing log statements. However, those business-related code easily attracts developers' attention and impede developers from forming systematic perspectives towards logging. We suggest that logging practice should be shifted left to upstream development phases such as design and requirement, where developers may have a better position to think about the overall logging practice. In conclusion, motivated by the attention to developers I&C, we conducted a case study in industry, which includes interviews and code analysis. We got some valuable facts and implications from the results. In the future, we are going to further perform a large-scale empirical study and try to perform a systematic identification of the inconsistencies. We will also explore the approaches to manage and maintain developers I&C. So that's all. Thank you very much for listening. Are there any questions?